Hello and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we publish the full interviews from our site's articles and sometimes release exclusive episodes. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, Eoin Murphy of the grunge-gaze Cork band The Drive discusses forming the band, their change in sound after the pandemic, how the Cork music scene has grown in the lifespan of the band, their latest single Nothing Crossed, how they write their songs, their plans for their debut album, and much more. The Drive are currently on tour around Ireland. Tomorrow night, October 24th, they'll be playing at the Academy 2 in Dublin. Then on November 6th, they'll be playing the Roisin and Dove in Galway. And finally on November 8th, they'll be playing the Cashba in Limerick. Tickets for all of those shows are available in the description of this episode. Thank you very much and enjoy.
Hello?
Can you hear me now, Owen? Sorry,
Yeah,
my internet
yeah.
just seemed to crash.
Oh,
How you
sorry.
been?
All good yourself?
Very well. It's nice to meet you, man. There's a lot to talk about, I guess, with the drive. I guess like we'll start with kind of the basic, I guess like introductory question, which is about the background of the band.
Yeah, so I would have started the band in 2018, kind of on my own when I was in like secondary school,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just writing songs in my little kind of small bedroom here, and it just kind of spitballed from there. Playing gigs in my local YMCA with a couple of mates. Going recording a couple of tracks that would later become like Moss Bawn and Cigarettes and Lemonade, kind of our first two singles in
Mm-hmm.
2020. Obviously then kind of COVID came and put a massive kind of stop to any plans we had at that time, any kind of prospecting shows or anything like that. It was kind of really 2022, 2023 that we really start kind of finding our sound, finding our footing in the kind of the Irish music scene.
Yeah.
2023 was probably the big year for us where we kind of had the lineup where we have now. The drummer Alex, I would have met him in 2020, releasing Moss Bawn and stuff. Aaron, the guitarist, and Manny, the bassist, would have joined in kind of 2023. So we kind of had a couple of member changes throughout the years, but that was when we were like, this is kind of locked down here. We have a great kind of vibe all together, and there's a great energy with all the four of us. We would have done a couple of shows then. Last year we did a kind of little small Irish tour, and most recently back in kind of May and June, July this year, doing kind of another couple of dates and our upcoming tour now. So it's been kind of a roller coaster since starting off as like a 14-year-old writing songs to recording in apartments in the Liberties, your first singles, to going to bigger studios and bigger venues and stuff constantly. So it's been a great journey, and I'm so glad that the lads are kind of here now and that we're all experiencing it together and stuff.
Yeah, do you view the drive as being, I guess, two different iterations kind of broken up by COVID, or do you just see it as a continuation of the one project? I mean, for you, how do you kind of, I guess, view the chronology of the band?
That's a great question. Now that you say it, it's definitely two iterations. Before COVID, 15-year-old me going for definitely indie pop, like loving the academic and stuff like that. COVID really made me go deep diving into music and various styles. I really got into Sonic Youth and My Bloody Valentine, Husker Du, and stuff like that. And that really was very formative
Love to
for
hear
me.
Husker Du shout out.
Yeah, shout out Husker Du, like
Yeah, it's NRK is
all
like one of my favorite records ever. So
they're crazy good for their time. Always
yeah,
blows me away. So like kind of coming after COVID, it was definitely like a systematic shift where meeting Alex, who at the time Alex was mad heavy metal, like Slipknot, all that stuff, and me being indie but going into more shoegaze post punk. It was lovely to see how our ideas blossomed from there, being able to take every piece of that puzzle and bring it into something completely new to us. So it definitely is. There's that, indie pop, trying to write something catchy, to let's focus on making music or art that we enjoy making and we think can push the needle on things.
yeah. What's interesting about the artists you list there, like Sonic Youth and Husker Du and I believe Valentine's, each one in their own kind of way was sort of really blending noise with melody in an interesting way. Like mostly it was through vocals and stuff. But like even if you listen to say Sonic Youth, you listen to Goo, and you have songs like Tunic and songs like that are just basically pop songs. It's very interesting, and same with Husker Du, especially when you get to like Flip Your Wig, that album, that's like a very pop oriented album, and same with Warehouse has a lot of pop oriented songs. My Bloody Valentine, maybe not as much. They've kind of maintained the
Yeah,
noise, but
it's like
um, it's interesting, like, the how they kind of incorporate melody and noise together, because I think kind of like prior to some of those acts, prior to kind of like the shoegaze boom, those two things kind of lived in separate areas. I think of like hardcore punk, maybe there was some melodic punk movement with bands like the Descendants, the Adolescents, Bad Religion, bands like that, who were kind of incorporating melody into hardcore music. But for the most part, I think like it was like you were either a noisy, abrasive band or you were, a melodic band. Did that kind of pique your interest too? Was that kind of like, I guess, like an entryway into noisier, heavier music?
yeah. See, like I remember listening to Sonic Youth for the first time, and particularly Teenage Riot, being
Yeah,
blown away by the melodies on the guitars and stuff. And I think that's one of their least abrasive kind of songs,
yeah,
like especially when you have like the whole discography before Daydream Nation and after. There's definitely
yeah,
they kind of had that shift on melody as well. And coming from that indie pop background, we were always trying to be like, how can I write the best hook possible here? But realizing that you can still have catchy hooks and do something that's a bit more heavier and more kind of high octane in that live setting. I
yeah,
think like alternate tunings was one thing that kind of blew my mind as well. I remember being very young learning, like Catfish and the Bottlemans, like Hourglass, and thinking this is huge. And then trying to tackle the behemoth, which is, Teenage Riot or any song off Goo, tuning the
yeah,
guitar all the ways down. It was such an eye opening experience to me that kind of forces you to go out of the comfort zone, but also looking at your toolbox and saying, oh, well, I know how to do something that's kind of catchy here, but also
yeah.
let's make a really cool middle eight part of a guitar riff, Definitely melding those two things together to create something.
Yeah, what's interesting about Sonic Youth, I remember Thurston Moore talking about how he would decide on a guitar tuning, and he would just open strum and just tune as he's strumming, and then if he heard something that catches his ear, he would stick with it. What's interesting about Sonic Youth actually is that if you get the tuning correct, the actual performance is pretty simple.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
often
what I
just
love about it.
pressing an entire chord down.
Constantly just hammering on and off, and
Yeah,
it creates more space for like the vocals. Like I always think of like Mary Christ. Like
yeah,
here comes Mary Christ, and it's like I was
yeah.
just like three
Talking to a bunch
chords.
of breeze, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the melody there. It's such a distinct melody, but if you took away that vocal, it's like just da-na-na, da-na-na. So
Yeah.
basic as well. Like it's brilliant.
Yeah, what's interesting about Goo, I'll get into your music in a second, but what's interesting about Goo is that if you actually listen to the lyrics, I mean, like, even like the title track, like I know a thing I do about you, and stuff like that. Um, it's the lyrics are kind of like because like you think of Daydream Nation, right? And Daydream Nation is like very intellectual kind of considered lyrics, but like on Goo, comparatively, it's much more. I won't say nonsensical, but like a lot more kind of free flowing in a kind of childlike way. I'd say.
Yeah.
That said, you have songs like Mo, and you have songs like Karen, which I do think adds that intellectual depth as well. I was a Lee Ronaldo guy. I always thought he,
So
added.
cool, man.
I, I always thought some of his songs were the best, especially on the Sister record. I
Yes,
always thought his stuff
ES3.
was great, even on Daydream Nation.
Oh, it's brilliant. He's
Yeah.
like such an underrated part for that. A funny story about my love for Lee Ronaldo is I have a
Yeah.
thin line kind of Telecaster that's like similar to one that he had, but I saw he
Yeah.
put like a tremolo onto it. I brought it to a guitar tech last year to get repaired, and I was like, I'd love to put a tremolo on this, and he was like, please don't ruin this beautiful guitar by doing that. And I was like, really? And he's like, this is like chambered. It's like it's a big job. It'll never stay in tune. He's like, why do you want to do it? And I was like, I really like Sonic Youth, and it was kind of funny, because I love the aesthetic that man has, the guitars he have. I was
Yeah.
always kind of like lauding it and idolizing it at that age.
Yeah. No, I remember I actually bought a Jazz Master because of Sonic Youth, and I bought like a Mexican Jazz Master, and then like Lee was showing off his guitars, and he was like, "Yeah, we just modded the hell out of these." So I'm like, "All right, so you're never gonna emulate that sound from an out of the box."
It is. It's impossible. Like, or even reading about like the different gauge strings. You know, all
Yeah.
those little nitty picks. I'm a sucker for those.
I have to ask, so going back to the drive, I went on a tangent there, that was my fault.
It's no bothers.
Going back to the drive, I mean, obviously you guys are from Cork. The Cork scene recently has really been blowing up. I think it is really, showing its strengths as a music city. Have you, well, it always kind of has. I mean, Cork was always like, big music city, but, um, even in the lifetime of this project, have you seen the Cork music scene kind of expand or change?
Yeah, it's crazy because I remember starting the band and I was friends with Iona from Clifford's. At the
Yeah,
time, they were like a band as well, kind of playing in local pubs and in garages and stuff. It was after COVID. Well, I had a little stint in UCC, so we were doing the Battle of the Bands, and
yeah,
Clifford's kind of came back for that. And I was like, they hadn't done anything in a couple of months. They all kind of got together and did the show. We did it together. I think Pebble Dash was there as well on one of the bills.
mhm,
So it's crazy, kind of going back 3 years ago, like especially Clifford, seeing him then to now
yeah,
has been such. It's been brilliant. You know, I love everyone that's a part of that band. You know, I have great time from, and I'm so proud that they have the opportunity to play all over the world and get their great music out there. And it's just it's beautiful to see Cork kind of get that spotlight shone on it again, like bands like
yeah,
Cardinals who are just completely decimating the touring circuit worldwide and really showing how strong songwriters and performers they are. Pebble Dash, who continue to blow my mind with every song they release. You know,
yeah,
truly the way they can structure a song, it blows me away. But
yeah,
like, it's great to see that kind of spotlight come back now in this day and age. You know, considering back in like the early '90s, you had bands like Micro Disney, you'd have bands like Sultans of Ping and Frank and Walters, and
mhm,
how it kind of nearly got stagnant in Cork for like 20 years. And
yeah.
it's really starting like a firecracker now. It's like someone's after lighting the fuse and everything just going bang, 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 and it's lovely to see.
Yeah, like I think of like some of the venues there, like Fred Zeppelin's, for example, is kind of good. Like that's been around forever. Like I remember, even as a teenager, seeing like bands playing Fred's. There was mainly punk bands at the time, kind of like local punk bands and stuff. But like some of the venue options there are great. Like I think even somewhere like the City Hall or the Opera House. I mean, obviously for bigger acts, like they've been around for decades. The music scene there, I know like there are new places popping up like the Kino and Dolly, I think it's called.
Yeah,
um and there are new places kind of popping up. Do you see like an expansion in terms of like the venues and the things there, or is it kind of like sticking with the lineage? Also, I should have mentioned Cypress Avenue as well. That's another big one that's been around forever.
like I remember starting off, and only up until maybe a couple of years ago, I would have been almost frustrated with the lack of kind of venues in Cork because, as you said, Fred Zeppelin's is definitely a flagship rock, punk, anything that's not maybe singer songwriter. Always kind of starts there and kind of is able to formulate there and play different shows. That for us, for a long time, it was like, okay, we played in our local YMCA, now we do Fred's. After Fred's, it's, oh, here's Cypress Avenue. Here's 400 people. Try and sell this out. And then after Cypress Avenue, it's like you can't necessarily jump straight to City Hall or the Opera House. So for a while, it was kind of like, okay, let's go to Dublin, and we kind of focused on playing shows up there. But primarily, again, after COVID in the last couple of years, Kino started getting back up and running again, and Dali, which is kind of open, I think, about a year now, and I think
Mhm.
it's brilliant that they're there now because if we were starting off, well, when we were starting off, to have those venues, it would have been so much nicer to be able. Oh, we're playing Fred's this night. 2 weeks later, and a different one, and a different one, as opposed to the same venue kind of consistently.
Yeah.
And I love that that's happening to Cork now. That there's you can literally choose. Oh, do you know what? No, I'd love to go to something maybe a bit more pop rocky, get some DJs afterwards, or I want to go see something more singer songwriter and the roundy. There's definitely more choice and option now, and that only adds to how diverse the Cork music scene is as well.
Speaking of that diversity, one thing I noticed in the Dublin music scene at least is that you have like a lot of venues that like yeah, we've options obviously, but the problem is like sometimes you go like a week or two without any gigs, and then one night three things you want is on the same night, so you have to kind of like select one. Is that the same in Cork now? Do you find that like, there might be gigs like happening concurrently and you want to go see each one, or are people a bit more, I guess, I don't know, willing to go, okay, we play Tuesday night and you guys play Wednesday or whatever?
Do you know it's been one of those things where there's never been many clashes because I think it will be a sake of, oh, do you know, like someone might just do a show on a Friday night and then obviously on a Saturday night in a different venue. I think with the newer
Yeah.
venues now, there could be chances of that, but like I do think when we were kind of starting out, you really only had like Collins and Roundy, which were more kind of singer songwriter orientated at the
Hmm.
time, and like Fred. So if you were playing in a band, you know, one band might be playing on the Friday night, the other band could be playing on the Saturday night. So you still had that opportunity to go see both. It's definitely something I find going up to Dublin, you know, if we're playing a show or even if I'm going seeing a mate's band up there, could be, oh, someone's on in the social tonight, but oh, this person's on in Whelan's as well. I really want to
Yeah.
go catch them. So something I never kind of found myself in Cork to be an issue. Always thought there was a great kind of a rotation there of shows kind of going on when they did.
What about like out of city bands? Do you find that more people are playing in Cork now that aren't actually from there, or is it about the same? Because like Cork, for domestic bands has always been kind of one of the big destinations. But I was kind of noticing that this is something I was talking about to some bands from Belfast actually. Like I remember when I was growing up, bands would just play Belfast and Dublin if they came to Ireland at all. Now you're having more acts, like the bigger acts, say like the arena acts or the theatre acts, and they're only playing Dublin, or they might do Belfast. They kind of rotate a little bit. But I find that the smaller bands, the kind of club size level bands, are now doing tours all over Ireland. They're playing Dublin and Belfast and Limerick and Cork and Galway, which is great. I think it's a great, even though it's a relatively small island, it's still, there's a lot of diversity in the music scenes. So I was wondering, do you find that like now international acts are kind of coming to, or even domestic acts are coming to Cork more? Or,
Yeah, 100%. Like it's always been a thing where I find like people from like Limerick and stuff like that would always come to Cork. There's always like a
yeah,
Limerick band maybe playing once a month in like Fred's and
yeah.
stuff like that, and vice versa. You know, like Cork bands would often go up to Dolan's and Casbah and play shows there. 100%. I remember like, funnily enough, when we were doing one of our first ever headline shows in Fred Zeppelin's, we had went in to pay the deposit fee, and Post Party were doing their show in there that night, and I ended up meeting Keelan, and that one kind of interaction of them just being in Cork that night spawned a friendship and a partnership that's still going on to this day. You know, we work together now. Keelan would have recorded Moss Bond and Cigarettes and Lemonade, all off the back of meeting each other at a pub. Oh, do you want to come up and watch our band there? We're just down from Dublin if you want to, put some bodies in the room. So I love how no matter where you're from, kind of coming into that Cork music scene, there's always that open arms there where we're so like everyone in Cork is so welcoming
Yeah.
for different musicians, which is it's such a beautiful thing.
Now, there's something interesting you also said earlier about UCC, and I remember, like, I'd hear stories about bands who formed in Dublin in the 70s and 80s, maybe even into the 90s, and it was always like, we met at Trinity, we met at UCD, and now it's kind of like, I think that kind of like university as a hub for music, unless it's BIM now, doesn't really exist anymore. A lot of BIM acts are coming together, which is obviously you're going there for that specific vocation. But UCC seems to me, because I speak to a lot of acts from Cork, and UCC seems to be like a common denominator. It's like, yeah, I met this guy in my course, or I was working at the radio station there, or whatever. Do you think that? I guess that kind of like the university there is still like a great opportunity to meet new musicians.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I like the drive was almost luckily enough that before we had went into college, we kind of knew a lot of the people who were in the band. So like Alex at the time, we'd met when we were in like secondary school. I
Hmm.
I had like a big problem with like the CAO and my points, so I only did like a 1 year stint in UCC.
Hmm.
But I found that even doing the Battle of the Bands, the crowd, the college heads that were just there that heard new music, they were so more reciprocal to it, as opposed to when we were in like secondary school trying to play to our mates who and kind of random people. Like being in such a massive university, and having all those people around you that you can, speak to with your music or become friends with on your day to day, and have either come to your shows or create, a great alliance together and create new music, it's so necessary. I think
Yeah.
UCC as well is a great kind of almost breeding ground for that. There's so many
Yeah.
like-minded individuals, so many different societies that you're bound to find someone who you share interests with and that you can create music and stuff with.
Yeah, like even you mentioned Pebble Dash earlier. Like I've spoken to them, and yeah, Finbar mentioned that they met on an architect course, which is crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that was. I remember meeting Finbar when I was in my first year there as well,
Yeah,
kind of chatting away to him and stuff, and seeing kind of Pebble Dash like form throughout the years and become who they are now. It's like a mosaic painting to me.
yeah.
Like they have such a brilliant groundwork from the start, and it just stands that test of time to who they've become now and where they're going to continue to go.
Yeah, one thing actually, this is something I'd like to ask you. So, Pebble Dash are another band who I feel have gone through that kind of metamorphosis you were speaking of, where you start off with certain influences, then new people join the band, and your own interests grow, and you want to try something new. Pebble Dash deleted some of their older material, the material that was previous to their EP, which I was quite sad about because I really liked the song "No Worse," but that's not available online
Yeah.
anymore. Um, but I was wondering, like, you guys have kept your music that you started, like, when the project first began. Was there any consideration to delete that stuff, or do you feel that it's still in the continuity, so to speak?
Funnily enough, we did an EP called Easy Now
Yeah,
that is no longer on streaming platforms. So we made the kind of conscious decision about a year ago to kind of take that down. Sonically, it didn't kind of match with what we were going for, and two like one of the songs we did keep off that, which was Moss Bawn. Moss Bawn was kind of like when we went to have that discussion and be like, okay, we're really going to try and formulate our Spotify profile that no matter what they listen to, they can know it's us, and it's not like a different band playing this really, bright, shiny indie song, and then maybe something a bit darker like Moss Bawn. We really wanted to be able to connect the dots from start to finish. So it was pretty tough for me, especially being kind of very attached to those songs and being like, but I remember writing this and coming up with it. But I think one of the best things about growth is being able to look back and, really
yeah.
be able to be like, "Do you know what, this is a great song. This one, not so much, like it was great for what I was doing at the time, but we're capable of something different now. It doesn't fit, the kind of a contingency plan." So it's always a tough decision to do, but I think if
Yeah.
it's done in a way where we only want to aid the listener in what they're listening to, I think it's the right decision to make then. But we do love keeping
Yeah, it's interesting discussion I've gotten into with other artists where I kind of feel like for me, I guess as like a music fan, like I like to have the chronology of the band, even if there is like a drastic shift. Sometimes it can be interesting, be like, oh, that's that, like that's that era, or that's when they were trying something new, or what have you, or even the early stuff and how it kind of contrasts. Something I've talked about, and I just would like to pick your brain a little bit about this is like now with as artists have seemingly more autonomy over their music, provide they're not, provide they're self-releasing. Um, they have that ability to delete stuff and things like that. I was wondering, do you ever worry about, I guess, like in the future, being like, oh, our history is kind of incomplete?
Do you know it's one of those things where I use Bandcamp for a lot of that stuff. Like
Yeah,
Bandcamp for us is like a little hidden thing where a lot of the songs that aren't on Spotify that we took down, I tended to kind of keep up there, and I was like, well, look, someone's bound to listen because I'm exactly like you in that, right? Like, I'm not
sure.
too sure if they took it down, but Inhaler had "Is She My Girl" as a demo on Spotify. Remember when they
Hmm.
first came out with that? Love that song, unbelievable track. I don't think it's on Spotify anymore, and I was very heartbroken when they took that down. I think the Academic took down their first EP as well, "Loose Friends," with a song called "Thought I Told You" on it, which is a beautiful song. So I definitely fear that they're not gonna know, like they're gonna just see 2020, 2022. What happened in that 2 year period? So I'll always try and keep a little small digital footprint where this happened as
Yeah,
well. But I think the unfortunate thing about music in this day and age is that Spotify has become such, and like all DSPs and streaming platforms have become such a focus for any new fans or maybe any industry
Yeah.
people that they'll go straight to your Spotify. Oh, what's the one you listen
Yeah,
to?
and even like the artists themselves, when they're on stage, you'll be like, "This is their new song. You can stream it on Spotify." They always specify that platform.
Yeah, and it's like it's become such an uphill battle for every musician, I think, to release
Yeah,
music, because you're releasing music and you could have PR and you could have a great team behind you and some like playlists and radio play, but you want to be reaching the right people as well, and for
yeah,
retention. And I just find that with streaming nowadays and short form content, it becomes so much harder to keep that retention in people, which is something we're constantly trying to not combat, but try and work with, and try and be
yeah.
agile with and move forward while also kind of still staying true to ourselves.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, I guess. I think I think we should go back to CD ors,
Yes,
just burning CD
yes.
ors.
I would love to have like create a CD just burnt to every show
Yeah.
and say, "You like it? Yeah, here you go. £5. There's 10 tracks on it. Happy days."
Yeah, I
Like
remember like going to shows and people would hand out their like CDs and stuff like that, and you just be like, I probably will never listen to this, but it might be good.
yeah, it's always good to have. It's always
Yeah.
good to have. Yeah, like our
So you mentioned that the drive, like yeah, it's kind of like I guess a revitalization happened post COVID in 2022. Sorry, I should specify post lockdowns. COVID's
yeah,
not over. People get mad at me if I say that. Um, you know what I mean.
of course, yeah.
But um, since then, again, I always preface this by saying, from my perspective, looking in, from my perspective, it seems like the band has had a continual uptick since then. Have you found that? Like, has the band has every year since 2022 been more successful than the last, or have there been peaks and valleys?
I definitely think it's always going to be a case of like kind of peaks and valleys in certain
Yeah.
senses. I I do think that kind of consistently every year, us as a band, we've gotten tighter. We're kind of writing newer stuff, newer material, but we also see that in like the shows that we're playing. Like
Hmm.
last year was kind of our first proper kind of UK headline, and it was amazing for us. We went over to the Old Blue last, and we did a show there, and it was kind of a headline show. There was a lot of kind of people in the room, and that was a very special moment for me because we had done a show in like Manchester about a year before. It was pretty small and it was nice, but the London show was really like, oh my god, something's changed from that point last year to where we are now. There's a massive difference here, and even going back over at the start of this year and doing a show in the amazing George Tavern, it was the Old Blue last, but 10 times more again. It's
Yeah.
that feeling is constantly getting bigger for us. I think every artist nowadays there's almost going to be that self-doubt, but doing the shows, getting out after the shows, talking to the fans and the new people that you're after meeting, that's what to me casts every bit of self-doubt away, that I'm doing something here that's not only bigger than me and the band, it's bigger than all of us.
Yeah.
And like even like the opportunities we get, like this year we played our first festival in Forest Fest.
Yeah.
If you'd said that to me when I was 15 writing songs, I'd be like, go away, you're only spoofing. But like having that actualized was amazing. It
Yeah.
brings us all such joy to be able to, even if it's not our full time jobs, to be able to go out and do it. It's truly a once in a lifetime thing that we feel that every year is definitely progressing.
Yeah, I think Forest Fest is a really slept on festival, man. I think they
It
have like
is.
such killer lineups every year.
The Complete Stone Roses was absolutely like shine out for me. I thought they were really good.
Yeah.
Tony Hadley, Simply Red, Travis blew me away. Like was so good, so good.
Yeah. No, I love it. Every year it's always like, I don't know, because like sometimes like if you look at like Electric Picnic, for example, which is probably the biggest festival in the country now, like for me, I'm always like, there's maybe like five acts I want to see,
Yeah,
but I'm not going to pay like the fee for that. But like with Forest Fest, every year I'm just like, oh wow, like there's like something on every day for me, you know?
yeah, and it's like every like hour there's something new on there.
Yeah,
It was great. It was a brilliant experience, all in all.
yeah. So what do you, I guess, foresee for the future of the band? Because like it seems to me that your focus, and correct me if I'm wrong, this seems kind of well placed in the sense that you're like, well, we can focus on like getting tighter as a band, writing better songs, improving your craft rather. Not saying that your songs are bad. I didn't want to imply that, but you know what I mean. Like constantly trying to one up what you've done previously. But as you mentioned, like the success that you'll garner from that or the recognition you garner from that is kind of out of your control. Do you think the band have a good sense of like, here's what we can actually do to maintain this and to grow it, and hopefully people come along? Or do you think like the externalities that you can't control does play in your mind a bit?
It does. It does play in kind of all of our minds, especially with TikTok. TikTok
Yeah,
is going to be a make or a break for artists nowadays. I think it's like you can either get really, really big off it, or
yeah,
you can post into the void like the millions of other bands as well. So it's kind of like we're always kind of focusing on how can we make ourselves look that bit more appealing.
yeah,
Sometimes you don't necessarily want to do that, but I think it's necessary as well.
yeah,
Gone are the days of just audio. Gone are the days of this song sounds cool. I'm going to listen to. I'm going to go buy this record. It's song sounds cool. What do they look like? Oh, they seem pretty nice lads. So working on that has always been something in the background with ourselves, as well as you said, consistently getting tighter and trying to one up your last song that you've written.
yeah,
Like our plan for right now is we're kind of embarking on tour. This week we have London, we have Liverpool, we have Dublin, Limerick, and Galway, which is huge for us. I think it's our biggest
yeah.
tour to date. So we're super excited to kind of go out there, meet new people, see who's at these shows, play with some great bands. We're obviously we're just off of kind of a 2 single run with Shelly and Nothing Cross. So I think our plan is to kind of sit down in the Drive HQ for the winter and kind of focus on 2026 and really try and push out all of our strengths then there again. And it's been great having these kind of couple of shows this year to road test new material we've been working on.
Mm-hmm.
There's some songs that are staples of the set, so like Lies, Living Is Easy, Moss Bawn, and now Shelley, Nothing Crossed. But being able to bring all the other songs you're writing while writing those to newer audiences, or even brand new songs to hear, so for people to hear for the first time, to kind of see what their takeaway is on it. I always love playing unreleased music at shows because you can really tell what way a song will do be based on a room. If you play a song and people are kind of going to the bar, or if you play a song and people start turning their heads and like, wow, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I always love those interactions. And again, you have to take to go with the bad. You could play a song you absolutely love and you think, I'm after writing such a great track here, and why is that fucker going getting a pint right now? Or oh, let's do this song here. This is a little high number. Oh my god, everyone's after coming for this one. Jesus. So
Yeah.
like, definitely kind of after the road to reflect on that. I think we
You
always
know
kind
what's
of will look back on that and be like, what was good, what was bad, how can we improve?
what's interesting though? Like I've eh, like sometimes like acts will come to town that do like two shows in the same city. I'll tend to go to two if it's a band I really like. No, it's only happened like I don't know a handful of times, but it's very interesting because you go to these shows and like I'll give you a specific example. So about I guess 3 years ago now, I went to see the band Shellac. Rest in peace, Dave Albini. I went to see them, and they were playing like I think a Wednesday and a Thursday, so it was like two midweek shows, and they were playing at the Button Factory in Dublin, and Mail were supporting. It's the first time I saw them, and the first night was like half sold, um, and the crowd just kind of weren't into it. I don't know what was up. And the second night, like packed house, and the crowd was much more enthusiastic. And it's just like weird like that because like if the Wednesday show was their only show, it'd be like that's like your impression of your music and the city's impression of your music. But if you do two, and I think it's always very interesting if you can see an act two nights consecutively, or when they're in town, if you're able to, because I think just how the crowds differ on each night gives you such a different impression. I don't know if you've ever found that if you've done like two consecutive nights and you found that like actually this crowd was sort of like yawning at this song, but this crowd seems like much more into it.
We've luckily enough we haven't had kind of anything like that where we've been playing maybe like in Dublin on like a Wednesday and a Thursday and
Yeah,
stuff. I definitely do remember kind of getting our foot in up in the Big Smoke a couple of years back, and we might do like the grand social at the start of a month, and 2 weeks later we're in Workman's Cellar.
yeah,
But I've always found that, like, again, I think it's like to me in that kind of scene, because obviously you're talking to other bands and you're playing with other bands who are around your age and around your size, and they're bringing their mates. That we've been lucky enough that the crowds, like now when we play shows around Ireland, I can pinpoint faces that have been there 3 years back.
Yeah.
So luckily, I haven't had that thing where you're kind of playing to like a stagnant crowd one night and a really high energetic crowd the other. Maybe with like support acts. I think we supported a band a couple of years back in the social where the music just didn't really align, but we were able to gain new fans from that, and also know, okay, these people, they're not going to be as susceptible to what we want to release and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I can 100% see where you're coming from there. It's mad that Shellac had that in their first night though. It's that kind of
Yeah, it was
that's
very weird.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Way
Yeah,
out,
even
brilliant
because I
job.
remember because Roisin was in Mail at the time, and even she commented on it. She was like, like they were very much the second night they were much more enthusiastic even for the sport act, and she was like, "Oh, you guys are like much more lively than last night or something like that." It's like, yeah, it was true. It was just something I observed, but I always think that's interesting. Like I don't know, just the reception you can get on different nights, but I've often heard people who go to, a certain city and go, oh, that city sucks, like they're like, they don't like, they weren't interested in this or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe if you played the next night, they would have
Yeah,
been. It's very strange.
that's it. Different crowds and stuff as well. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask, so with the drive, now obviously you guys are, as you said, building that momentum. You're doing like headlining tours across Ireland and the UK. How do you kind of balance that, I guess, with your actual life, so to speak? Is the drive something that you can commit to full time at the moment, or?
Unfortunately, not. Like,
Yeah,
last year in particular was a tough year for us. I was working like a full time sales job.
yeah,
Aaron was like full time sales job manager. Alex was doing his masters.
yeah,
Maddie was working full time, so we were all kind of on the trot constantly. This year is a small bit different. Oh yeah, I decided to kind of go back to college, so I'm kind of going back
yeah,
to education now again, 5 days a week. Aaron and Maddie's still working full time, and well not Aaron, Alex has gone into like a really big kind of graduate program job.
hmm,
So it's always been tough, not only for music, but to even have that work life balance. But like for all of us, for the four of us, we're so dedicated to this and we love it. This is like for since we started the band, music has always been our greatest outlet of expression. So
yeah,
any chance we take that we can rehearse together or play our songs or write songs, even if it's on our own or together, we'll do that. I'm I'm very fortunate now that going back to college, I'm studying music. So music has really I've been able to put music as kind of like my full time choice. I really want to do
yeah.
this, but obviously then it's different styles, it's learning it, but always finding space for the drive. It sometimes gets a bit tough. Aaron and Maddie are based in Dublin, so sometimes rehearsals can be scheduled weeks in advance, and
Mm.
it does break away from the sporadicness sometimes, that kind of lightning in a bottle moment of let's go up to the space and let's try and write something. But
Sure.
because of that, every time we're in a room together, we're so much more focused, we're so much more dedicated. It's like this time is fleeting. We gotta do some stuff here, but
Mm.
not putting pressure on ourselves. I think pressure is the last thing you want in one of those environments. It's great to kind of sit down, all four of us, and be true to ourselves and be true to the project and just write and perform and rehearse and do little fine little bits, or let's maybe do this part for this song, and just really build on that when we're in that rehearsal space, like the whole outside world is a completely different energy. It's on a different planet to us. The only thing that matters there and then is the four of us, the music we're creating. So even though it's hard to kind of have that work music life balance, we'll always find the time for it.
How's the actual songwriting for the drive work? Is there like, are you like the primary songwriter and then you bring to the band and they expand on it, or do you kind of, does the writing come from those collaborative sessions?
It's very fluid. In the earlier days, it was definitely of kind of me maybe doing a bit more top lining, coming in with like a song fully written on the acoustic guitar, like oh let's
Yeah.
have these parts. That kind of grew into something like Sundown, which I remember writing on like the MacBook for the first time and kind of bringing that to the lads and being like, what do you think of this part? Is this
Yeah.
cool? Should we work on this? Primarily with Lies and Living is Easy, the last two songs we would have released, that was a systematic change where it was no longer me at the kind of the head of the songwriting kind of thing. It was this is all of us now. I might come in with like primarily with Lies. I would have came in with like some lead guitar and like the guitar and the vocals and the bass. And then building upon that with the lads, Living is Easy was started as just like a jam.
Yeah.
Like Shelley, I had the riff. I got a bass six for Christmas off my mum, and first riff I played was Shelley. That
Yeah.
2 weeks later we were rehearsing. I was like, guys, I have this kind of cool riff, and within like 10 minutes, Shelley was written. And it's I almost kind of prefer that sense of songwriting. I
Yeah.
love being able to. I have this little small part and building upon that. It never takes away from. I think as a songwriter, it's great to be true to yourself and be raw. It's always good to write something, and when you're bringing it to people, to be almost embarrassed because
Yeah.
you put so much rawness into it that I really
Yeah.
don't know they like this. So that definitely does happen with certain songs now. I might bring to the lads like, look, lads, this is a song I really feel like it could really work. I have a lot of parts written, but it doesn't happen as much as we're all in the space. Here's an idea. What do you think? Let's all build off that. And I think it's a bit more cohesive to kind of do it that way. I think everybody has their say, and it's a
Yeah.
very important thing in a band is that it's never just kind of one person and the funky bunch. A band is a band, and it's made up of all the core members, and we're all pillars in this. And it's something that moving forward, primarily after kind of Lies and Living is Easy, it was like this is something I think will stick with us.
Have you consideration for, I guess, like an album or anything like that, or is that just like far down the road for now?
It's one of those things where at the start of the year we kind of had an album planned. We have the songs kind of written for it. Like to us, like the Drive's first album can be written and recorded like tomorrow if we needed it.
Yeah.
It's kind of something that we're sitting on. It was something that we were toying with, but kind of as for now, we just kind of want to see what way the waters are, test the waters primarily with this show because, like in this day and age, you don't want to have to release something into the void, and that's a massive fear of mine.
Yeah.
I really want to release something that people will hear and people will be able to judge whether they like it or not, as opposed to just being completely forgotten about in a trail, like Sugar Man, like that
Mm.
record, how it's really big in South Africa and like 70 years later became huge. So because of that, I think live shows have been kind of a big thing for us, and the album has kind of nearly taken a back seat. We were privileged enough to do some like drum tracks for it in the School of Music with a great friend of mine, Sarah Faulkner, back in the summer. So the building blocks for the Drive LP1 is there. It's something we constantly think about. A lot of the songs we'll have in our set are songs we envision to be on a record, but I think we kind of want to find ourselves in a position where we feel comfortable doing so. And that's kind of what these shows will help us do is to only grow that audience and to be able to give them a body of work that we believe is true to ourselves and we're proud of that people are going to enjoy, and something that might last that test of time. I think that's one thing every band, every solo artist wants to do with their debut record is that they have a really good debut, and
Yeah.
it's something that we're constantly thinking about and it's always in the back of our mind, but sometimes it needs to take a back seat and you might need to focus on let's do a live circuit, let's maybe try and find a booking agent that can get us around the world so that when we do release an album there's people around the world who are going to be wanting it, as opposed to
Yeah.
maybe just something in the Ireland and the UK.
You could just do, I guess, the Taylor Swift means of relevancy and just release 12 variants.
Yeah, yeah, that would be, you could always do that.
Just have 12 variants ready and release them in the span of
Yeah,
a week.
boom. Oh, Billie Eilish wants to release an album, not on my watch. Deluxe edition. You know, I remember when that happened last year, man. I was like, this is wild that we live in an industry where she can get away
Yeah.
with that. Like I thought,
Yeah,
she
I
was
think
releasing
like
her album
Swift
again.
now is getting a lot of criticism for that, which because it's so transparent. But yeah, I don't know. Like, hopefully, as a means of like, I don't know, the variants thing. Like, cause I don't know, cause like there was always like deluxe editions, but they'd always come out like a year after the regular version or something, right?
Yeah, like even like in going back to music college, we're doing like a life of copyright and stuff like that. And great lecturer Lara, she was like, well, 70 years, but think of all these great albums that are being
Sorry,
remastered.
did we go there? Is it?
Oh, sorry. But like I was in college the other day, and my lecturer was talking about like the life of copyright and stuff, and obviously how record labels want to be able to monetize it. But remasters, it never kind of clicked
Yeah,
for me then that, oh my god, a remaster is so that they can get longer or the life of copyright. That kind of blew my mind, you know. And
yeah,
it's like, oh, it's like Taylor Swift is constantly re-releasing the album and doing deluxe editions so that she keeps that number one spot.
yeah,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah.
You know,
It's quite unfair.
yeah, yeah, 100%. But respect the graft, you know, respect creativity and all that jazz. But that is wild.
Perfect, man. I guess the final thing I'll wrap up with is about your new single, so Nothing Cross. So it's been out about a month now. I got contact for the interview on the day of its release, but various things kind of happened. So it's been out a month now as we speak. How have you found the reception to it? And maybe if you want to talk about the single.
Yeah, like it's a we've had a great reception off it. It was definitely one of those ones where it's a more darker, more heavier, melancholic song. So it
Yeah,
doesn't appeal to like the masses, something like Shelley might have done. But to us, it's a very important song. It's a song we all love in the band. So we're very proud that it's out there into the ether and that people can listen to it. And the response we've gotten off it so far has been brilliant. Do you know, it's one of those songs that I love taking colloquial sayings like lies. Oh, ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies, no lad.
yeah.
Like that's how that would have came about. So Nothing Cross was very similar. I'm not too sure if it's an Irish thing or if it's just a Cork or even predominantly a north side of Cork thing. But I remember being in.
It gets sub regional.
It literally gets sub-regional, like I not really liked, you know. And I remember being in primary school, and like, oh, nothing cross, nothing counts, no funny words included, even if I say I'm wrong in the back of my mouth. And that's always stuck with me. Like even in my teens in secondary school, give me a bash off your scooter. Nah, by nothing cross, nothing counts. I give it back to you, and like the fingers crossed behind the back, like
Oh,
proper
okay.
snaky, proper sly. That it's always been instilled in my mind. I remember just being in my kitchen with like a melody and start singing that,
Yeah.
and it was definitely one of those eureka moments. Like, holy shit! Let me fucking record this right now. Let me write this down. Why aren't you writing it down? And again, Christmas Day, I got to base six and I started messing around with Nothing Crossed and bringing that to the lads, and it just blossomed. You know, like a lot of cool production things on that. Like I have a bow on the bass six doing drone notes, which ebbs and flows throughout the song. We really wanted to create something that was kind of cathartic,
Yeah.
but was also true to ourselves. Like the statement, that whole crux of the song, the Nothing Cross part, it's very topical in the kind of climate we live today. Especially, even though me and Alex are from the north side of Cork, and the lads are from Dublin, and Aaron's from like the north side of Dublin.
Hmm.
Even though they're two separate counties, we still feel a lot of those strains, of lack of funding, lack of development, lack of housing. These underprivileged areas just getting worse, and having these kind of TDs and stuff coming and constantly making these false promises that just fall through when a windfall for
Yeah.
something else comes in for them. That not only is it that kind of childhood statement and that childhood fear and unnerving sense of dishonesty, it's something that's so topical in today's political climate that it just felt really true to
Yeah.
release and true to us.
Yeah, no, it's interesting we discuss that because I was seeing something. There was an article published, I think it was in People magazine or something like that. And it was very interesting because it was talking about the demarcations of life, and how a lot of like millennials and anyone kind of younger are sort of getting screwed. But they were saying one of the knockbacks on that is a lot of people not feeling like I said, those demarcations of life where you get married at a certain age and then you have kids at a certain age and you buy a house at a certain age and things like that. And for a lot of people, it feels like a continual escalation of their childhood that like their 20s, their 30s, and maybe even into their 40s just feels like their childhood kind of continued because the what do you call it, the kinds of circumstances of their lives haven't really changed that much, and they're saying like how those steps are very important. I don't know if you've noticed that with people kind of your age due to the political system feeling like their lives haven't changed that much since childhood.
Yeah, see, it's kind of one of those things for me where I kind of had to grow up pretty fast. I
Yeah,
remember being very young and having a massive part in the household and stuff like that. So for me, not like obviously not saying I never had a childhood. I had a great childhood. Love my
yeah,
folks, love my family. They've done everything for me. But being where I'm from in the north side and having the amenities at our disposal, it's always felt like, okay, cop on, there, no, put on the shoes, put on the belt, let's go out, let's do something,
right.
let's earn a bit of money, like let's put some money in your pocket so you can actually do something and have something to show for it. And I think it's just kind of systematically always there where the poor get poor, the rich get richer, the poor will always have to work harder. And now, obviously, I
Yeah,
don't necessarily just mean the poor and the rich, but people who are middle class and working class in underprivileged areas, desh areas, and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think there's always been, and no pun intended, but there's always been that kind of drive to push forward, that tenacity to be like, let's make something here,
yeah,
and let's. I always think that if you think there's something wrong, you have a voice, you can always make a change. I think that's a sentiment that all of us share in the band where even though there's issues in our political system, there's ways to make that change. It's all about using the voice. I can 100% understand and agree with you that that kind of childlike feeling stays into the 20s and into the 30s and stuff like that politically because there's not that much talking about it in a more of a positive light now. I find it's always going to be the negative. It's always a smear campaign that you're reading about when, especially a lot of younger people, like even myself when I was in secondary school. You might read something about Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, it's a scandal, or you might read something about
yeah,
Sinn Féin, it's a scandal. It's never about what they've actually done. It's I
yeah.
think there's the focus has shifted in making one look better than the other, as opposed to here's an individual group, this is what they're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually want to ask you this. So, I'm wondering now because like the um seemingly nationwide, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil have been like are always getting like voted in to their respective constituencies. So I was wondering, do you think that's something that's going to change with future generations? Do you see more political parties getting a chance, or do you think I don't know, civil war politics still dictates us?
I I would love to see those shackles of the past change. It's always so hard it's always so hard because I was only having this conversation with my partner the other day, who's from
Yeah,
Galway, and like talking about like Sinn Féin and like the area I would live in is predominantly a Sinn Féin area. Like they'd
yeah,
vote for Sinn Féin. They want the Sinn Féin TDs in constituency because they know them and they're members of the community. And then you go to maybe the south side or a different part of Cork, and it could be something completely different. I definitely think those things are unfortunately instilled in the communities, but
hmm,
I 100% see the ability for change. You see the rise of independence now or solidarity, like in Cork. We're so
yeah,
lucky to have Mick Barry. Mick Barry is an
yeah,
absolute powerhouse in the Dáil, and I so much respect for him. And even in the presidential election, Catherine Connolly, fully
yeah.
independent.
That's what I'm voting for.
Exactly. Like I would,
Yeah,
like I'm lucky enough to be able to use my vote in Cork and then go up to Dublin for our headline because
yeah,
it's such a massive thing that is definitely being underutilized now, where young people think that their voice might not be heard, and in fairness, might not be asked with voting. But
yeah.
it's such a crucial part.
Well, dude, this is something I've thought about too, because like people talk about the political apathy of the youth. I'm like, no, no, I don't think they're politically apathetic. I think they're just beaten down by attrition.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
constantly. I think like if people kind of, you know, especially young people, if they take the time to listen, as opposed to, oh, this is just, oh, this Fine Gael, that's
right,
Fianna Fáil. Ah, sure, my mum tells me to vote for Fianna Fáil, so I'm going to do that. Or my dad tells me to vote for Sinn Féin.
sure,
To kind of just have an opinion based on their own personal views and to be able to use that and go with someone who they feel represents that best.
yeah,
I definitely think that the youth of today could do so much,
yeah.
and I think that there will be so much happen. And we just haven't. I think we're yet to it's yet to come.
Yeah, well, I think you see it a lot in referendums when you give kids like something they want to vote for. I mean, you look at the same-sex marriage referendum, you look at the abortion referendum. Both of those referendums had a huge, a huge wave of new registers for the first time, and that's people who probably aren't too interested in who's in their local council, probably don't even know who's in their local council or whatever. And it's like, I just wish people were that like, I don't know, we're that attuned because, I guarantee you wherever you are in the country, like there's someone in your local constituency, someone wrote going for the doll that like you agree with more than others. And even if they don't get in, it's still nice to give them a chance and to give them your number one, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you there. Yeah.
Perfect. One final thing I just want to ask, and I'll let you go on with your day. You've been very gracious for your time. The punctuation of the band, so the drive punctuation, and I know it's like some of your songs follow that
Yeah.
same follow that same. So what's with the punctuation? Because I was trying to think about other bands who do that. I was thinking of the band Therapy who have a question mark after, and things like that. So what's with the punctuation mark?
Okay. So I always wanted to be kind of aesthetically different and kind of
Yeah,
stand out and have something that was unique.
yeah,
Drive is such a colloquial term used all over the world. You drive a
yeah.
car. We drive something forward. That
Sure.
having that kind of full stop, that punctuation is almost making a statement. As well as that, when I kind of looked it up, I was like, oh, there's a one band called The Drive, but they don't have full stop though. Full stop sets us apart. That's kind of on the record, off the record a small bit, but like that was like, oh, that sets us apart though. Like, funnily enough, off the record, I was in college the other day and
Yeah.
I was talking about the band, and this old timer was there, and he was like, The Drive. There was a band from Clonmel called The Drive, and one of the lads who I was with was like, they didn't have the full stop though, boy. And I was like, nice one, thanks, kid. And I always like that was always one thing to me where I was like, how do I make this unique so that if
Yeah.
anyone ever came knocking, we don't have to change
Yeah. Well, if you're ever in court, you'd be like, excuse me, Judge, we have a punctuation
full stop
mark.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
And
like that's
then
a legally distinct entity.
yeah, but I think it's just I think the punctuation there is always kind of like you're making a statement, and every song to
Yeah,
us has always been a statement. Particularly, I think we've only started following it with the newer stuff, like
yeah.
Lies, Living is Easy. They've all had the full stops. I don't think about Moss Bond and stuff like that had it, but it's
Well, they
something that
feel like
yeah,
declarative statements, it's like their drive,
yeah. It definitely it puts that full stop there, puts that period there. It's like this is it. It's the
Yeah,
drive to, or it's this is it. It's been something like that.
yeah. Perfect, man. Hey, thanks very much for your time, on. It was lovely chatting with you.
Well,
Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up and we didn't cover? I am going to mention your two dates. So you're on the road now as we're speaking, but for by the time this will come out, so you're playing Roisin Dove Galway November 6th and the Cashball in Limerick on November 8th. But beyond that, is there anything you would like to add or tell people?
Um, there's nothing yet. We have those shows, and to kind of keep an eye on any of our social medias. Keep streaming the songs, and yeah,
Do you want to plug that with the social medias?
our social media is at the drive that underscore on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's the drive on TikTok and the drive on X. No one uses X. I don't
No
really
one
use
uses X anymore except neo-Nazis. So
exactly.
if
So
they're saying neo-Nazi, no, that's kind of no.
no.
That was the thing,
Yeah,
though, because like I got kind of grandfathered into this before Elon started X, and
yeah,
when it was still Twitter,
Twitter. Yeah,
and it was always like you have to, if you're like in publishing, you have to have a Twitter account, and I don't know if that conventional wisdom is true anymore, but
not
I
anymore.
part of me is just like I think I still need it because like at the time, dude, it was like that's where you made all your connections. That's where people would message you on Twitter, and it's like
Yeah, it
no,
was huge,
yeah,
huge, and like
dude, he really fucked it.
yeah, he really ruined it. Like even if like because I remember like looking at a lot of journalism and stuff on Twitter. It was a great place, stuff like that. And now you got fucking pop grave, and that's
Yeah,
really it, and propaganda, and it's just like it's not a nice place. Whereas, Instagram, and
yeah,
TikTok, oh my meta and stuff, whatever. But that's probably just I think it's the safest options now. So the drive on Instagram and the drive on
yeah.
TikTok, and yeah, the drive on any streaming platform of your choosing, and Bandcamp, where you can pick up
Perfect.
some of our music or listen to it for free.
Thanks very much, Sean, and
Thanks very
enjoy the
much,
rest of
Aaron.
your day. It was lovely chatting with you.
No hassle. It was lovely chatting to you. Thanks again so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care.
No hassle. Slán.
Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, so we hope that you enjoyed and would consider subscribing, giving it a like on YouTube, or a rating anywhere else. We also have some exclusive episodes only available on Spotify, which features interviews with the likes of Kim Deal, Ron Mail of Sparks, Jacob Slater of Wonder Horse, Maria Kelly, Gavin Friday, and many more. So check those out if you're so inclined. Otherwise, thank you for listening and see you next time.